Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Tahlia Batusha binti Muhammad Syara. Today, I will discuss democracy and political inclusion of Muslims in India. India has around 200 million Muslims, making it one of the largest Muslim population in the world. However, Muslims remain a minority in a country dominated by Hindu political power. Since 2014, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his party, the Bharatiya Janata Party (BJP), come to power, Hindu nationalism, also known as the Hindutva, has become more influential. This ideology places Hindu identity at the center of Indian nation and has increased the marginalization of Muslims. After winning election in 2019 and 2024, the government introduced policy that many argue undermine Muslim rights, leading to increased exclusion and hostility. In theory, democracy should ensure equality and inclusion. However, the situation of Muslims in India raises doubt about how inclusive Indian democracy truly is. Next, I will explain about the overview of Indian political system. India is a federal parliamentary democracy established under the 1950 Constitution. Political power is divided into three branches: the executive, led by the Prime Minister; the legislature, which is the Indian Parliament, consisting of the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha; and the judiciary, led by the Supreme Court of India. Although the system appears democratic, scholars argue that since 2014, Indian democracy has become more majoritarian, reducing political space for religious minority, especially Muslim. Political inclusion is referred to fair participation and representation in politics. Muslims make up about 14% of Indian population, but hold only 5% of seats in Lok Sabha, showing clear underrepresentation. Muslims are also affected by discriminatory policy, such as the Citizenship Amendment Act of 2019 and the National Register of Citizens, which risks excluding Muslims from citizenship and voting rights. The situation is contrary to Islamic principle of justice in Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 8, leader to act justly even toward those they dislike. In conclusion, although India is often called the world's largest democracy, the political exclusion of Muslims reveals a serious weakness. Without inclusion, democracy cannot truly uphold equality and justice for all.
Okay, next, I will explain about Indian's political system through the lens of religion. One of its biggest strengths is that the Indian constitution guarantees freedom of religion. This means people can practice like Muslim and Christian are legally protected. The courts and institutions also help prevent discrimination. This creates tolerance, diversity, and unity in a country with many religions. However, religion can also create challenges. Sometimes politics in India is influenced by religion. For example, Hindu nationalism has grown, and this can make minorities feel left out or unfairly treated. When political parties focus on religion, it can increase tension between communities and cause social conflict. Some laws are even seen as favoring the majority religion, which can weaken secularism. In conclusion, India's political system tries to balance religion and secularism. It protects religion freedom, but its success depends on leaders being fair, protecting minority rights, and keeping religion separate from politics. The future of India's democracy depends on maintaining this balance and promoting harmony among all communities.
Hello everyone, I'm 2310640, Nur Zahida binti Mahanapia. So today I will present about the democracy and political inclusion of India. So we move to the next part, which is the impact of democracy on political in India of Muslim. So briefly, democracy in India promise equal political right for Muslim, but in reality, their representation is limited due to the electoral system, population distribution, and few Muslim candidates. Although often treated as vote banks, Muslims continue to participate actively with higher voter turnout. This shows democracy allows participation, but reform are needed for real political involvement of Muslims. So the next part, which is democratic procedure in India political system of Muslim. So for the conclusion, what we can say that India democracy guarantee equal political right, but Muslim remain underrepresented in parliament due to electoral structure and limited party nomination. Despite forming a significant part of the population, they are often treated as vote bank rather than active political actor. This shows the need for democratic reform to ensure fair participation of Muslims in India political system. And the next part, which is the role political Muslim in India. So basically, Muslims have played a key role in India political history from the independence movement to the formation of democratic institution. After independence, they continue to contribute by holding important leadership and constitutional position. Today, Muslims remain active in politics through mainstream and Muslim-based parties, supporting political participation and pluralism in India.
Hi, my name is Nusha Simbakis binti Muhammad. I will briefly explain democratic and undemocratic practice in India. The practice, India is a democratic country with a parliament system influenced by the British Westminster model and supported by the indigenous tradition. One key democratic practice is local governance through panchayats, which allow community at the village level to participate in decision making. They also hold a regular election, and its constitution guarantee fundamental rights such as freedom of speech, assembly, and movement. The federal system allows both the central and state government to share power. Because of this democratic framework, Muslims in India have the same legal political rights like other citizens. They can vote, contest election, and actively participate in both state and national politics. India also values pluralism and consensus building, which support inclusion in a diverse society. Undemocratic practice. However, India also faces undemocratic challenges. Under the current government, there have been a restriction on protest, media censorship, and the use of security against critics. This action reduces freedom of expression and weaken democratic accountability. The rise of Hindu nationalism has further limited political space for minorities, especially Muslims. Although Muslims form a significant part of the population, they are underrepresented in parliament. In addition, caste-based voting and elite influence affect fair political competition. How democratic practice strengthen political inclusion? Democratic practice in India help strengthen political inclusion by protecting constitutional rights such as freedom of speech, assembly, and participate in governance. These rights allow people from different backgrounds, including minorities and rural communities, to express their opinion and take part in political activities. This protection applies to all citizens regardless of religion, meaning Muslims have the right to vote, contest election, form political groups, and seek protection through the constitution. This helps ensure that minorities are not excluded from the political system. Another important factor is decentralization through panchayats. Local governance allows communities, including Muslim community, to participate in decision making at the village level. These people direct vote in issues that affect daily life and reduce the concentration of power at the central level. How democratic practice weaken political inclusion? However, political inclusion weaken when democratic practice are limited. Restriction on protest, media control, and the use of security laws reduce freedom of expression and encourage public participation. The rise of Hindu nationalism has further reduced political space for Muslims, who remain underrepresented in political institutions despite being a large minority. Additionally, caste-based voting and elite dominance create unequal political competition. In conclusion, India's democracy promotes inclusion in theory, but in practice, political restriction and social division weaken meaningful participation.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi, I'm Iza, and I'll conclude our group assignment on democracy and political inclusion of Muslims in India. So overall, India is officially a democratic country. This means all citizens, including Muslims, have political rights such as voting, running for office, and practicing their religion. However, when we look at the reality, Muslim political inclusion is still limited. Even though Muslims actively vote and take part in politics, their representation in parliament and key political institutions is much lower than their population. This shows that having democratic rights on paper doesn't always lead to real political inclusion. This situation is influenced by several factors. These include the first past the post voting system, the rise of majoritarian politics, and certain laws that indirectly disadvantage minorities. As a result, Muslim voices are often sidelined in national decision making. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
I disagree with the current political system in India because it does not ensure real political inclusion for minority. Although India holds regular election, political power has become highly centralized, and democratic institutions such as the media and opposition have weakened. This limits accountability and reduces meaningful participation, especially for Muslims. Muslims are also systematically underrepresented in political institutions, which prevent them from influencing decision making. This shows that democracy exists in form but not equally in practice. Therefore, changes are needed to strengthen the democratic institution, protect minority political voice, and ensure that participation leads to real representation, not just voting.
So next, I'm going to explain why I agree with the current Indian political system and how it supports political inclusion. India practices a democratic political system, which means people choose their leaders through elections, as measured. Every citizen has the right to vote regardless of religion, caste or background. This allows people from different communities to participate in politics, making the system fair and inclusive. However, even though the system is good, some improvements are needed. One issue is the influence of many and corruption in politics. Stronger laws are needed to ensure fair elections. Also, women are still underrepresented in political leadership. So more opportunities should be given to women. In conclusion, India's political system is suitable for the country because it promotes political inclusion, but reforms are necessary to make it more effective and fair. So
I disagree with the current political system in India because it does not fully support political inclusion. Although India is a democracy, not all citizens have equal political participation. Therefore, minorities, especially Muslim, are underrepresented in parliament, and Hindu nationalist politics has reduced minority inclusion. Political power is also dominated by elites and influenced by caste-based voting. Yes, change should be made. Political inclusion must promote fair representation, reduce elite control to ensure fair opportunity for all citizens. Also, important institutions like the court and election bodies should stay independent to ensure fairness and equal treatment.
An inclusive and substantive democratic system is more suitable for a diverse state like India than the current majoritarian model. Although India practices liberal democracy, the existing first-past-the-post system has failed to ensure real political inclusion for minority, especially Muslim, leading to underrepresentation and weak influence in policy making. I disagree with the current system because it favors majority group and limits minority participation through electoral structure and party strategies. This gap between democratic ideal and actual practice causes political marginalization and reduce trust in democratic institutions. Yes, change are needed, introducing proportional representation, increasing minority candidate nomination, and strengthening participatory mechanism would promote political inclusion, enhance pluralism, and create a fair and more representative democratic system in India.
Referring to the question on democracy and political inclusion, I disagree that the current democratic system in India effectively promotes political inclusion for Muslims. Although India is democratic in form, in practice, the system is increasingly dominated by majority interests. This limits the political influence of Muslim communities and marginalizes their concern. In my opinion, some changes are necessary. First, constitutional protection for minorities must be enforced more strictly to prevent discrimination. Second, political parties should include more Muslim candidates and seriously address minority issues in their policies. Finally, independent institutions should be strengthened to ensure fair and equal political participation for all citizens. In conclusion, democracy alone is not enough. Without real inclusion, fair representation, and strong protection of minority rights, political equality remains incomplete. a more inclusive democratic approach is essential for India.